Chapter 13, The Blood Hunt Begins. The hospital doors slid open, and Alex Orakeen stepped out into the frigid air of late December. The city greeted her with a blast of cold wind that bit through her thin coat, but she barely noticed. The bandages were gone, leaving behind raw, scarred tissue where her eyes used to be, but she held her head high, her movements purposeful. There was no more room for hesitation. She was no longer the Alex who had tried to start over, who had tasted peace and happiness for 6 fleeting years. That woman had died in that alleyway with Isaac. What remained was the monster reborn, sharper, colder, and fueled by a rage so intense it burned away the last remnants of the person she had once tried to be. Her footsteps echoed on the icy sidewalk as she walked away from the hospital, her breath visible in the winter air. She had no plan for where she would go or how she would survive, she only had one goal: vengeance. The people who had stolen her life, her sight, and her beloved Isaac would pay. They would pay in blood, and she would savor every moment of their suffering. The police had tried to offer her protection, tried to convince her to stay in their safe houses, but she had refused. They were useless to her now, mere obstacles in the path of her revenge. She had no intention of being coddled and protected. She would find those girls, no, those demons, and she would make them wish they had never crossed her. Weeks later, the transformation. Alex's recovery had been brutal. After the hospital, she had retreated to a crumbling apartment on the outskirts of the city, a place she had rented under a fake name. The walls were peeling, the pipes groaned with every turn of the faucet, but it was perfect for her needs, isolated, anonymous, a place where she could sharpen her skills and plan her next moves. Her body was still weak from the acid burns, the scars a constant reminder of her lost sight, but she was relentless in her physical training. Day after day, she pushed herself, forcing her muscles to regain their strength. She could no longer rely on her vision, but she had learned to navigate the world through sound, touch, and smell. Every scrape of a boot on concrete, every faint whiff of perfume in the air, she honed these senses until they became as sharp as any blade she had wielded in the past. When she wasn't training, she was gathering information. Using the skills she had honed during her previous life, she hacked into databases, bribed informants, and scoured the dark corners of the internet. She learned everything there was to know about the girls who had blinded her and killed Isaac. They had grown up, gotten married, started their own lives, all while she was struggling to piece hers back together. But now she knew where they lived, where they worked, where they spent their free time. They thought they had gotten away with it. They thought she was broken. They were wrong. The first kill. Vanessa Lambert. The first on her list was Vanessa Lambert. Once the ringleader of the vicious group that had tormented her in high school, Vanessa had become a successful real estate agent, living in a posh apartment downtown. Alex had tracked her movements for days, memorizing her schedule. Vanessa was predictable, moving through her routine like a clockwork doll: gym at 6 a.m., office by 8, lunch at the same trendy cafe at 1 p.m., and then drinks with clients in the evening. Alex waited until Vanessa was alone, jogging through Central Park at dusk. The perfect time. The fading light provided the cover she needed, and the park was sparsely populated with the cold keeping most people indoors. She followed the sound of Vanessa's rhythmic breathing, the crunch of her designer sneakers on the frosty gravel path. "Vanessa," Alex whispered into the darkness as she moved silently behind her. The woman turned, confusion turning to recognition, and then terror. You're dead," Vanessa stammered, backing away. "You were supposed to be dead." "I'm harder to kill than you thought," Alex hissed, her voice like ice. She lunged forward, grabbing Vanessa by the throat. With a swift, practiced motion, she slammed the woman into a nearby tree. Vanessa's eyes were wide, her breath coming in panicked gasps. "What do you want?" Vanessa screamed, her voice trembling. "I'll give you anything, money, whatever you want." "I don't want your money," Alex growled, leaning in close so that Vanessa could feel her hot breath against her ear. "I want your blood." Before Vanessa could scream again, Alex plunged a knife deep into her stomach, twisting the blade slowly. She relished the wet, gurgling sound as Vanessa's life drained away, her eyes rolling back in her head. Alex stayed there, holding the woman upright until the last twitch of life left her body. Then, she let Vanessa crumple to the ground, her once perfect makeup smeared with tears. But it wasn't enough. It didn't feel like enough. Not yet. The hunt continues, Olivia and Jasmine. The next two on her list were Olivia and Jasmine, the inseparable pair who had been Vanessa's right-hand tormentors. Alex tracked them down to their shared gym, an upscale, members-only establishment where they spent hours perfecting their perfect bodies. It was laughably easy to infiltrate the place, slipping in through the back entrance and disguising herself among the wealthy clientele. Olivia was first. In the dimly lit locker room, Alex cornered her as she was toweling off from a shower. The scent of expensive shampoo filled the air, mingling with the metallic tang of blood as Alex struck quickly, efficiently. She dragged Olivia's writhing form into one of the shower stalls, the sound of water masking the wet gasps of her victim's final breaths. Jasmine came running at the sound, but it was too late. Alex had hidden in the shadows, waiting. With the precision of a hunter, she struck as Jasmine rounded the corner, slicing her Achilles tendon to prevent her escape. The woman screamed, crumpling to the floor, but Alex silenced her with a swift, brutal strike to the throat. As she stood over their lifeless bodies, her hands slick with blood, the familiar high returned. But this time, it was tainted with the bitterness of knowing that no matter how many lives she took, it would never bring Isaac back. The final target, Cassandra Blake. But there was one more. Cassandra Blake, the mastermind who had orchestrated the attack, the one who had poured the acid over Alex's eyes. She was the hardest to track down, always moving, always hiding. Alex finally found her holed up in a mansion on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by security. Breaking in was a challenge, but Alex was relentless. She slipped through the shadows like a ghost, taking down guards one by one, leaving a trail of bodies in her wake. By the time she reached Cassandra, the woman was already shaking, her hands trembling as she pointed a gun at Alex. You can't do this. Cassandra screamed. You're supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be gone. I am dead, Alex whispered, a cruel smile twisting her lips. But you forgot one thing, ghosts always come back. With a swift motion, she disarmed Cassandra, slamming her against the wall. She took her time with this one, savoring every scream, every plea for mercy. But there would be none. Not for her. Not for anyone who had taken everything from Alex. As Cassandra's final breath left her body, Alex stood there, panting, covered in blood. For a moment, there was silence, a cold, empty silence that echoed through the mansion's opulent halls. But it didn't bring the peace she had hoped for. Isaac was still gone, and the darkness inside her was deeper than ever. She knew now that there would be no redemption, no escape. Only the hunt, the blood, and the screams of her enemies as she carved her way through the darkness.